What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of the Apple TV Plus original series, Smoke. This will follow episode 7, which is called Whitewashed Tomb, and is directed by Chapelle. Okay, so as we come to the barreling conclusion of Smoke, we only have 2 episodes after this remaining. Everything that is falling apart in Smoke is starting to happen, and the kind of end game is starting to unfold. And this is a very kind of chaotic episode because it has to unfortunately conclude Ntare Mwine's arc as Freddie, as he is of course committing suicide, which I think is a little much, but it is what it is. But this is an episode that basically needs a character like Dave to finally come to the conclusion and realization that the people that he considers friends and the people that he is working with are actually working against him. It's an episode where there is betrayals. It's an episode where revelations start happening. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here, including a Nine Inch Nails song, which never really has been used in a movie or TV show before, which is March of the Pigs. And I really appreciate that because I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. And to watch it used as David Gunderson is basically coming to the conclusion of what's happening is quite the interesting type of song to use. But I do appreciate it. I guess it really kind of fits into the chaotic mind that is Dave and his kind of unwinding and stuff like that. And yeah, it really starts basically in the cell block of course, Freddie's character. Of course, he will not talk to anyone, and that's when it comes to the idea that he only wants to talk to Dave because he's the one that captured him, and kind of Freddie kind of knows that Dave might or might not be another arsonist or have some issues just on what he saw from the last episode with the erection that David had, and the two meet. And that's what I consider the kind of Emmy nomination moment between Freddie, the Ntare Mwine character, and of course Dave, the Taron Edgerton character. And it's quite the harrowing scene, quite the dark scene. It very much feels like a David Fincher scene, where Freddie basically gets into Dave's soul, kind of basically realizes that Dave is exactly like him. They're lost people. They were betrayed by their own family. They are loners. They are deviants. They are dark-sided humans. And to watch Freddie kind of deconstruct Dave's character to the point where he throws up at the end on top of his car is a pretty powerful moment for a character written as a arsonist, as a very deeply disturbed individual who can see into the mind and realizes that Dave's character is very much in the same realm as Freddie's character. And I really love that scene. I think it's the best scene of the series so far. It's really dark. It's really disturbing. It really gets under Dave's skin. It starts to show that Dave is starting to fall apart at the seams, and it's never not present throughout this entire episode. You see it in of course, the coffee scene, the coffee house scene between the book agent and of course the character played by Chlumsky, who plays Dawn, and you see how that starts to fall apart and how Dave is starting to realize there's something wrong there, and the drinking that happens. And it really is a thing that is setting off this fire in Dave's soul, the fire in Dave's brain. The fact that when we go to the party that is a celebration of Taron Egerton's Dave's character, that the captain played by Rafe Spall, Stephen Burke, basically sucker punches Dave and tells Dave what he is. He's a loner. He's a loser. He'll never have what, Captain Burke has. Dave confronts Harvey outside. He basically says, "You're supposed to be my friend. You're supposed to be there for me. You weren't there for me." And once again, it really is showing that no matter how hard you try, Dave's not going to go down easily. And that's not what the story's trying to tell. It's not a story about a guy who's going to be captured. He's very smart. He knows what he's doing. When everything falls apart at the coffee house and John Leguizamo's character, Ezra gets really upset because they're just not following the script. They're not getting the information they need out of Dave, out of the book. And it just, a lot of things start falling into place that needs to conclude this story if there's only going to be one season or if this is a limited series. And it really shows in just how chaotic it really is, how chaotic everything starts to play out. It starts out with, Dave on TV and the book sales lady, the head of the sales company, gets mad at the agent who kind of denied Dave's character the book deal. Once again, it leads to the group and that are investigating Dave to find a way to get information out of him. So they use Dawn's character to become an agent, and just watching all that stuff play out, and then watching the stuff between, of course, Freddie and Dave, and watching everything else unfold. It's really compelling stuff, to be fairly honest, because it really is. It's campy, it's goofy, it can come off a little preachy in a lot of respects, but it's fun and entertaining. I think Taron Edgerton, is having a lot of fun playing this like over the top zealous bad guy who is falling apart at the seams. And I think, watching Michelle, the of course Jurnee Smollett character, have to deal not only with her mother and her brother and all that stuff, which is another kind of facet of just how disturbed this whole situation is really interesting, because I think it's the sister-in-law really why are you doing this? Why are you worried about it? Your mother's old. And it's like, it doesn't matter that the mother's old. She almost murdered her own daughter, and then everybody's acting like it's not a big deal. And it's a lot of stuff there. It's a lot of hiding of the soul and the mindset. And it just when Jurnee Smollett's character brings up what would happen if your daughter, your kid was there, and the mother did what she did, how do you know she's changed for the better? And it really is a lot of crazy stuff. It really is. And then on top of everything, as Dave's doing his thing with the book deal, and then eventually the revelation that Reba unfortunately brings to him, which is showing that Reba is not a very good person, and the simple fact that she tells everything because Michelle goes to her eventually after talking to Ashley, which is his current wife, on the verge of divorce. And they talk in a coffee house. They talk in another coffee house after meeting at a fitness center. And everything that's brought up about how Dave had he had his issues, but he didn't seem like a bad guy. But then he had this fantasy where he wanted to rape someone in a burning down building, and it's really disturbing. And on top of everything, Ezra reveals that maybe something like that happened with his other ex-wife. And Dave had two ex-wives, which Ashley didn't know about. And so Michelle goes and visits Reba and explains everything that's going on, and Reba explains that he's not a bad guy, but nobody's perfect. And then Reba unfoils everything towards the Dave and the party. And it's just the thing about this episode, and what makes it kind of chaotically just insane, is the simple fact that it starts one place and then starts to unravel and kind of spiral out of control to the point where we're right here, or I guess we're right here, and then the next episode right here, but then it'll kind of go to right here at the end and just explode in a million pieces. It's like two missiles or two comets colliding with one another or something like that. Yeah, it's bonkers of an episode. It really is. Watching Dave, like I said, Dave drive around, watching him playing to March of the Pigs, screaming and singing to March of the Pigs. And then he sees, of course, Dawn and Ezra and realizes what's truly happening. He, of course, breaks into his Harvey's office and finds the picture frame, which means that Harvey may die in the next episode. Maybe he's at his cabin and Dave burns it alive. I don't know. Someone's going to die, or someone's going to almost die. I don't know if it's Dave or Harvey or what's going on. But Dave now knows everything. Even Harvey says it to Michelle. He's like, he knows everything. He of course loses the tail. He loses the device that tracks his car, because his car jumps over the corner of a sidewalk. And yeah, it's going all banging into like a collision course, like the last couple episodes where he was in that accident. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy episode. I will say, in one of these moments, I know they wanted to go for dramatic effect. I don't know why they want to make you feel bad for Freddie, who basically has committed mass murder at this point, has killed a bunch of people, and then do this somber music and then have him commit suicide by, of course, hanging. I know it's to get Freddie at a point where he's officially out of the story. He's dead. There's no more you can do with him. He is officially convicted. He's going to go to jail. He's probably going to be killed anyways, through the death penalty. But it felt like you could have stopped where Dave's realization of Ezra and Dawn, that last portion right there, and stopped the episode there. But then they had to keep going further and further, and I don't necessarily like that, to be fairly honest. I think it was a little too much, a little too much for this episode. And I think, you know, maybe if like the episode opened, or, you know, they had said, well, the guy killed himself or whatever, I think that would have been fine. I think that would have been enough. But I mean, they're giving Ntare Mwine his kind of flowers, his due, because he's so good in this series. And I think, once again, I don't know if the Emmys are going to give him an Emmy nomination, but I think it's definitely worthy because he's so good in the series. And it's kind of sad how his character dies out, but it's kind of like a fitting end. I just didn't really need to see it. Like, you're supposed to see like how. And he talks about it when he talks to Dave about how much he is just kind of alone, and they're losers in a lot of situations, and how that affects, him, and how it affects Dave and stuff like that. It's fine, but it takes away from the chaotic mess that the story has run itself into when it comes to the story, not in a bad way, but when the chaotic mess that is starting to unfold that will lead to the penultimate and eventually finale of the series. But once again, that's just my pick, my not nitpick and stuff like that. Other people might enjoy it. They might feel that it's fine for whatever it's worth. But for me personally, it's just a little too much. So overall, my kind of conclusion is I thought this was a really good, really solid episode. It really kind of points us into that wall that we're going to eventually crash into when we get to the conclusion of this episode series or season or whatever. And I think it really is wrapping up. This season is doing a really nice job of like really kind of parsing it out, doing a really nice job of parsing it out, really kind of allowing the characters to breathe, but also have the push forward, the character development pushes forward. And I think it's a really solid kind of way the series is going so far. It's a really solid episode. So overall, I'll give it an 8.9 out of 10. I can't get it to a 9 because I don't think it's a 9 episode, but I think it's a really decently put together episode. So 8.9. Sorry, that's just how I feel. So there you go. But with that said, that'll be my take on episode 7 of Smoke, called Whitewashed Tomb. Really cool idea why that's called Whitewashed Tomb. But there you go. Thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, what do you think of this episode? What do you think overall of like how it ended? Let me know in the comments why. But if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.